and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, bringing you episode 169 here at the tavern, presented by Hirotaku.com. Now, I have to admit, one of my pet peeves on both Sentai and Power Rangers, and it's a minor one, you really don't think about it, but something that just kind of bugs me that we get season in, season out, is the fact that many of our female Rangers, while in morph form, wear skirts. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal, but it is one of those things where you just kind of look at it and go, huh. Because the thing about skirts, at least from my perspective in Power Rangers, is that they're not very conducive to fighting. If you actually look at the skirts a lot of the girls wear, some of them look so tight and don't even seem to have slits in the side that they can't lift their legs above their heads. Now, there are a couple that, it's not that big of a deal, Mighty Morphin Pink Ranger being a good example of that, but I just always wonder, why do they have to go ahead and wear skirts? And when you actually look into the real world production reason of why that is, you're like, huh, that's kind of odd. And then you think about the in-universe explanation for it, it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So today I'd like to try and explore that with you guys and kind of talk about the real world application and the fictional application to it, and just point out for the fact that, can the girls just stop wearing skirts? Again, I know it sounds a little ridiculous and everything, but try to hear me out on this. Alright, first of all, let's talk about the in-show ramifications for it. Why do the female characters wear skirts in the show? I mean, really think about this. Why does the Pink Ranger have to have a skirt? Why does the Yellow Ranger have to have a skirt? Why does the White Ranger with the pink accents have to go ahead and have a skirt? Why is that something that's built into the costume? Because other than identifying that they're female, there is no logical reason why these costumes should go ahead and have skirts. And the fact is, there are a number of teams that actually don't have skirts on them whatsoever. Looking at the history of Sentai, and I've marked this out, of the 40 teams that we have at present, only 9 of them have gone without skirts. So that is Go Ranger, Battle Fever J, Goggle 5, Dynaman, Bioman, Changeman, Flashman, 5-Man, and Deka Ranger. Deka Ranger, of course, being the last series to implement this, which was in 2004. I should also point out that the only outlier to this list is Sun Vulcan, which did not have a female member at all, but just for note here, when Sun Vulcan is utilized by Gokaiger and the Yellow Ranger becomes Volpanther, a skirt is added to the costume. And we'll talk about Gokaiger here in a second, but, again, we have 40 teams, less than a quarter of which don't implement skirts whatsoever for their female characters. And when you look at it, again, this seems kind of normal, they're in full body spandex costumes. They have to have full range of motion. They have to be able to kick over their shoulder in some instance. They have to be able to jump really high, and they have to run fast and everything. And the way the skirts are designed on a lot of our characters, it doesn't seem like it's designed to do that. That they're designed to actually move around in these skirts. So lack of mobility seems to be an issue that we have. I mean, it doesn't really come up in the show. I mean, I've never seen an episode of Sentai or Power Rangers where the girl complains, oh my god, this skirt is in my way, I cannot run. That is something that I just don't see in the show, and really should be something that's addressed. Much in the same way that not being able to see through your visor should be something that is addressed in the series at some point. Particularly when it's a night scene or they go into a cave and the Rangers are able to see just fine, yet the darkened visor should indicate that they really can't see a damn thing. But that's a different topic for perhaps a different time. And, when you actually do talk about Gokaiger, one of the clever things they did do, is the fact that if it is a female character taking on a male character, they would typically give them the skirt, and vice versa. So like in Magi Ranger, when our male Blue Ranger becomes the Magi Blue, and of course that is a female character, and they do a gender swap where they have pants, and vice versa where the Yellow Ranger now has a skirt in the female form. That at least is clever, because what they've done is they've taken the established aesthetic on the team saying males don't wear skirts, females do wear skirts, and they've adapted it to fit as such. That's at least clever. But again, there's the issue of Sun Vulcan, and why would you add a skirt to a fully functional costume? I mean, because just look at Vol Panther, which is not spandex, it's a much looser material. Wouldn't adding a skirt to the Vol Panther costume actually make it worse? Wouldn't it make it more difficult for a female character to go ahead and move around in that costume? And actually, think about how the females are usually standing in the show. Again, it's kind of an odd signifier that they are female. They always have to have their legs together in this little dainty pose, like they're trying to balance on a high beam or something like that. Which I guess is sexist in a number of ways. I really don't want to get into how sexist it is exactly. But it's kind of like we have to know that they're female. The fact that they're dressed in bright pink collars and have breasts does not indicate enough that they're female, therefore they must pose in a particular fashion and they must have a skirt on their costume. I mean, again, I just don't get it. I mean, why do they have to have skirts? It doesn't improve the battle. It would be more of a hindrance than anything else. So from a logical standpoint, within the context of the show itself, wearing a skirt does not help you. It can only make things worse. But we have to look at the real world applications. So, of course, by now, everybody's, always asked the question, why does the Pink Ranger have a skirt, but Trini never had a skirt? We don't get that. And, of course, for those of you not in the know, in Zero Ranger, it was a boy playing boy. A boy who was playing a boy as the Yellow Ranger, and thus the Pink Ranger has skirt, yada yada. We know that kind of stuff. But would you believe me if I told you that the stunt actor for the original Pink Ranger in Zoo Ranger was a man? Yes, so, up until fairly recently, and I would say probably the last decade or so, a lot of the female characters within Power Rangers and Sentai in the stunt action, the more forms, were played by male characters. And actually, the reason that they had to wear skirts, and I know this is going to blow a lot of people's minds, the reason they had to wear skirts was to hide their junk. Yes. A lot of the stunt actors would have to wear the skirts because it's form-fitting, it's spandex, it's tight. You're going to see what's there, so you have to wear the skirt to go ahead and hide that. And because, of course, they're skinny Japanese men, they would have to have padding on their chest to indicate that they had breasts. Now, that's kind of an odd thing, wouldn't you say, that you had these men dressing as women for these action scenes as stuntman. And of course, the question you have to ask is, well, what about stunt women? How come they didn't hire stunt women? And this is kind of where we get into the meat of the subject here, is because apparently the reason why we've had 30 Sentai shows that have had, women wearing skirts and most likely a high percentage of men playing those female roles is because for a long time they really couldn't get female stunt actors for this show. Now, I have no evidence to particularly prove this. There has been no study or statistics done on this, but there are a number of sites you can go to where you can look up suit actors and stunt actors. And again, up until, I would say, Magi Ranger, and again, I don't have all the statistics on this, but just from a cursory glance of stuff that I have read, it was predominantly male. You would have a couple of females in there once in a while playing the female roles. I think Magi Ranger, they did have 2 women who were playing the Pink and Blue Rangers as well as the White Ranger, but when you look at something like Zoo Ranger, you had a man that was playing the Pink Ranger. Time Ranger, you had a man that was playing the Pink Ranger there too. And oddly enough, even when they did Time Force, they did have men playing the roles as the Pink Ranger in the American footage, evident by the picture that you were looking at during this whole video. So it seems to be a recurring trend that a lot of men are playing these roles. Now, obviously, there are women who are doing the roles now, and I would assume that there have been women doing the roles as far back as something like, Dynaman when they first got the spandex because they didn't have skirts. So the question I would have to ask is, why don't we have enough female stunt women in Super Sentai and in Power Rangers? It just seems to be one of those odd things that is an issue, and I don't understand why it's an issue. Now, again, I don't know anything about the stunt industry. I don't have the statistics in front of me. There's no research that I have to back any of this up. But I would find it odd that doing stunts, and stunts as in, wire work, explosions, even hand to hand combat and gymnastics, would be something that is totally to the domain of men or is predominantly high with men. Now, just as a kind of a comparison here, let's take a look at American football. Um, Here's the thing: there are over 600 institutions in the United States that have some level of collegiate football. And I'm talking all the way from FBS all the way down to NAIA in junior colleges. So, roughly what you're looking at is, you have approximately about 30,000 men playing college football in the United States. Again, approximately. As of last year, the 2015 NCAA football season, do you know how many women were playing football out of those 600 institutions? Two. There was April Goss at Kent State, who is a kicker, and Shelby Osborne at Campbellsville, in my home state of Kentucky, who is playing defensive back. Now, the thing is that football has been predominantly a male sport, but due to Title IX, there's no reason women can't play football. They are totally allowed to go ahead and play football, whether it's on the high school level, the college level, or even the pro level. But we're, almost to the century mark of the NFL. There have been no women players. We just got one of our first female coaches who got fired promptly by the Cardinals after like a short period, and we only had one female referee. In college, I think we've had a handful of women players in over 100 and what, 20, 30, 40. I don't, okay, college football, a long time ago. We've only had like a handful of players. And again, in one season, we've had two over, within a span of, 600 schools, 30,000 players, and so forth. Does anybody find that as odd that we would have those type of low numbers when women are allowed to play it and they can do it whenever? But of course, then we have things like the Lingerie Football League, which I know is the Legends Football League now, but who are you kidding? It's still the Lingerie Football League. It's just kind of odd. It's like I've been to a number of jobs and in interviews, and basically there would be a conversation kind of like this going on. And it would be like, well, we need to hire more women. Why do you guys need to hire more women? Because we don't have enough women working the job. Do a lot of women apply? No, a lot of women don't apply for this job, but we do need to get some women in here. It's kind of like, with that conversation, it's kind of like, there are no women in this job. We need to get women in this job, but women are not interested in this job. If you guys follow my logic. Now, I know there are a lot more nuanced details to that, and I'm just trying to boil it down for simplicity there. And I think that's something we have going on to a degree with football, is that there just may be a low interest in playing football for women. I don't know why. I mean, football is much better than softball, volleyball, field hockey, the more traditional, quote, women's sports out there. I mean, certainly my daughter, I'm going to teach her to play football, and if she wants to play, she's going to play. But if she wants to play a more female-oriented sport like softball, whatever, I'll let her go play because that's her choice. And just as an aside, why do we have baseball and softball? How come it's just not one sport? Why do women have to have bigger, softer balls to go ahead and hit? I'm sorry. I'm getting into this whole female-male dynamic about sports, and that's a completely different topic. But back to the stuntman thing, why is it that there are more men in stunt work than women? Is that really a thing? What is it about this industry that says more men are going to join up into it and there's not going to be a lot of women interested in it? Which, again, I don't think is necessarily the case. Looking at Hollywood, you see fights with women all the time, and those are actual women in those roles. Now, sometimes you'll have a scrawny guy in a wig, but that's something that doesn't happen too often. I mean, typically when you're filming a Batman movie, you don't have a man playing, like Poison Ivy's stunt double or anything like that. You typically have a woman playing Poison Ivy's stunt double or Catwoman stunt double. It's not some skinny Japanese guy with, padding on his chest. It's really a woman in that particular role. So it goes back to Sentai and all that. What is it about Japan or Hollywood, whatever, where we have 30 seasons of trying to hide the male junk as opposed to hiring women. Again, what's the exact reason? Because I can't imagine that you can't get two or three, four or five women to be on set at any given time to play these female characters. Now, I'm sure they got two or three guys on set to play the Red Ranger. You know, the guy gets tired, gets hurt, you got to rotate in. I'm sure that's how it works. But you're telling me you can't get at least two women to play the female roles at any given time? That's something I don't understand. Now, I believe at this time, and I could be wrong, but I think Zoolager does have two female stunt people playing the roles of the females. Now, if that is certainly the case that is happening, why are they wearing skirts? And look at Magic Ranger. I know for a fact that Magic Ranger did have female stunt actresses, but why were they wearing skirts? Why couldn't they have the full body outfit like the rest of the men? Why do we have to go ahead and break that up? So then it raises the question of, we have the female stunt actresses, but we're still going to put them in skirts. And why is that? Because again, practically speaking, yes, if you put a man in there, you have to hide his junk, you have to have a skirt on there. That makes total sense. I get it. But when you have women in the roles, and again, in the last decade, there have been more women in the stunt roles, we still have skirts. And again, I said the last decade, but the last time we had the female characters without skirts was in 2004 with Dika Ranger. You know, no, Go Ranger, Shinkanger, Go Sager, Go Kaiger, Go Buster, Killjar. All these shows do have women in the roles of the stunts, working as the stunt women here, but they still have to go ahead and wear skirts. And again, I imagine that makes it more difficult for them to do their jobs by wearing these skirts. It doesn't make their job any bit easier. So, here are the questions you have to go ahead and ask yourself about this from in-universe and outside of universe. In-universe, what's the point of having the skirts on the Rangers? No in-universe explanation has ever been given by either Sentai or Power Rangers for this. It's just the way it is, and we're supposed to accept it, but I don't accept it because I think for a living. That's what I do. I think, and when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. From a real-world perspective, if you have women in the roles, why are you making them still wear skirts, making their job much more difficult? And of course, another real world implication is, why aren't women interested in doing stunt work? Why can't you get women to do stunt work as readily as you can get men to do stunt work? What is it about that industry that makes it that way, or really any industry? Why aren't there more than two women playing college football this upcoming season? Why aren't there more women in the NFL? Why aren't there more women in the Major League? Why do we have to have a separate league for men and women in basketball? Again, everything says they can play the same sports as men, but women are just not interested in doing that. They'd rather compete in other sports. And it's not like we have men's football and women's football colleges. We do have men and women's basketball teams, but frankly, if you look at some of those girls, I honestly believe the men and women can compete together in same activities. Okay, I don't know why you guys split male and female, but that's a story of genetics and something rather for another time. What we're focusing on is Power Rangers with skirts, which again is trivial at best, but it does open up these questions about the real world and the fictional world, and I just don't understand, and I would like a full and comprehensive explanation into that. So if you have one, please leave in the comments below and let me know, why aren't there enough stunt women in Japan or Hollywood to fill these roles? Why is it a male-dominated field? Why isn't it something that's more equal? Because, again, it just seems like something more equal, and don't give me an explanation for why why they were in-universe explanation, because there is none. If there was one, I would know about it. Alright, so that's all I really got for you guys, so leave a comment below, let me know what you think about this subject, and until next time, the tavern is now closed.